today we're going to be talking about narcissists and cheating. So I've often said for many years, even back in my book, when I wrote the first book, Breaking Free, a step-by-step divorce guide, I wrote that book in 2013, and it went on to become a bestseller. And in that book, I talk about the 3 A's. And the 3 A's are what I call the 3 deadly sins of marriage, which are abuse, addiction, and adultery. And I say that they're the 3 deadly sins of marriage because if you have any one of those things, it's pretty much a death knell for the relationship. So today we're talking mostly about the 3rd A, which is adultery. Sometimes, a lot of times, I've actually seen people who've been dealing with all 3 or even a combination of 2 of the 3, something like that. But with narcissists, you often do see a nexus between being a narcissist and being a cheater. All cheaters are not narcissists. All narcissists are not cheaters, but there is a higher propensity for cheaters to have been narcissists. And why is that? Well, because narcissists need an endless amount of narcissistic supply. So narcissistic supply is anything that feeds a narcissist's ego. Narcissists have no inner sense of value. They have to suck all of their value from their external in some way. So to feed their ego. And how they feed their ego is through what we call narcissistic supply. Supply can be what we think of that feeds people's egos, such as having lots of money or having a prestigious job or living in a big house or driving the right car or being friends with the right people, and all of those kinds of things that you normally think of as feeding people's ego. But narcissistic supply can also come in the form of what I call the dark underbelly of narcissistic supply. And that dark underbelly of narcissistic supply is things like devaluing people, debasing people, judging people, treating people poorly, jerking them around, all those sorts of things. And so, they need this endless amount of supply. And so they'll collect people almost like, books on a shelf of or canned food or something as like their supply, their arsenal, that's where they go to get their supply wherever they can get it from. And the worse they are as narcissists, the more supply they need to get. And sometimes, they get more and more powerful, so they are able to gather more supply from various sources. So if they want to get more supply and they feel like they're not getting it enough from the person with whom they are in a relationship with, whether it's your boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, husband, wife, spouse, romantic partner, whatever you want to call it, then they're going to go and get it from someone else. And it has nothing to do with you. It doesn't mean that you have failed in giving them enough supply. It means that they think that they need more. And it's, this person at work is saying how awesome they are. And so, if they don't have values or morals, then they're going to go ahead and do it. And especially if they think that they can get away with it, because narcissists do tend to do things as long as they think that they can get away with it. So if they think that you'll never know or you'll never find out, then they will go and get that supply from somewhere else. But the crazy thing is, even if they're getting lots of supply from you, because you look good on paper as a spouse to them, or because you've done so much for them, or because they want the window dressing of a nice family or whatever, when you catch them, they could actually be like mortified and on the floor and, oh my God, I'll never do it again. And then they start love bombing you back into the way they were love bombing you to get you into the relationship in the first place. And if you want to know more about love bombing, make sure you check out my video on love bombing. But that's what they'll start doing. They'll start reverting back to how they got you in the first place in order to get you to just forget about, deflect, deny, and forget about what they did. Or they might just say, you made me cheat. It was your problem. It was your fault. You made that happen. And if you want to know more about what narcissists do when you catch them in a lie, check out my video on what happens when you catch a narcissist in a lie. So one of the reasons that narcissists do cheat is that they feel entitled, and they also lack boundaries, and they are pathological liars. So those are the kinds of things that they will engage in if they want to. If they feel that they need to do that for their ego, then they're going to go ahead and do that. So some of the signs that narcissists might actually cheat on you is, number one, it might sound strange, but that they always talk about cheating. They always say, I would never cheat on you. You better never cheat on me. It's a constant conversation about cheating or not cheating. And it's just so weird that they constantly bring it up, especially if you're just there and you've never given them any reason to believe that you have cheated. They might even actually accuse you of cheating. I think you were cheating. I think you were talking to this person, and things like that, where you're thinking, what are you, crazy? I didn't talk to that person. I didn't do anything with that person. That is a trait of a person that might potentially end up cheating on you. Number two is that they're super secretive with their information, with their phone, with anything with a password. You can never get near their phone. They have it on them all the time. I mean, even when they basically take a shower, right there it is, right next to them in the bathroom, and you don't know what their password is, or they're secretly texting when you're not watching them. You walk into the room and they quickly put it away and they act kind of guilty about it. That might be a reason too. Another thing is that they disappear for periods of time. You don't know where they are. You don't know what they're doing. They're coming home late. They have lots of work projects or things that are going on. Another thing is I've seen in clients where they have hidden bank accounts. They might be spending money from a hidden bank account, or maybe they have a credit card that you didn't know about, because they're using that credit card to spend money on another person. All right. So what do you do if a narcissist cheats on you? Number one, do not confront them right away. I know you want to. I know you want to go, hey, loser, I know all about you. I know what you are. But let me tell you something. Narcissists are prone to what I call the three deadly sins of a relationship: abuse, addiction, and adultery. The three A's, they do these things. Okay. And I call the three A's the three deadly sins of a relationship, because those are the things that erode the very base of a relationship, the very integrity of a relationship. And narcissists are prone to these things. And obviously, cheating is one of them. So, but don't confront them right away, because this could potentially be your leverage. So, cheating is something that you could potentially use in one of these situations. Okay. So do not confront them right away. And, SLAY is my methodology for winning in a negotiation: strategy, leverage, anticipating, and focusing on you. So be careful. All right. So don't confront them right away. That's number one. Number two, you want to gather information first. Gathering, because you want to know, what are they doing? So just observe. This is your opportunity to figure out what's actually going on. This is your opportunity to see, do we have information on the bills? Do we have information on the phones? Do we have information that you can observe, pictures, video, that sort of thing? So don't let them know first. Gather information. Next is confirm your information. You want to make sure you know exactly what's happening. And you might want to hire a private investigator, maybe. I mean, depending on how much money you want to throw at this thing, how much money you have. Don't go into debt for that. But if you have the money to throw at it, then you might want to consider hiring a private investigator. Narcissists have a confession to make, and that is that they are way more afraid of you than you are of them, especially in court cases, mediation cases, or any kind of cases where you have to negotiate with them. But you know what? I have a confession to make too. I'm sick and tired of these people bullying you and making you feel exhausted and paying way too much in attorney's fees and dragging you through the mud. My name is Rebecca Zung, and I'm an attorney. I've been recognized by US News as one of the best lawyers in America. And in fact, I was so sick and tired of these people bullying you that I started studying narcissism so that I could beat them in the courtroom. And now I'm here to make the case so that you can win too. I developed a 4-part proven blueprint that has helped tens of thousands of people take back their freedom, win, and get back their power. And now I'm sharing it with you in a special live event, Outsmart the Narcissist, the 4-part proven plan to take back your power. 4 simple steps, 1 free live event, 1 free hour of your life. That's what stands between you being in hell and you being free. Join me, click the link for Outsmart the Narcissist, the 4-step proven plan to take back your power. Just click the link and let's go. Because you want to see what you want to use the information for. Here's what I'm going to tell you about this. I'm going to dispel a myth for you right now. Many people think that there's this whole no fault thing out there. All right. I'm going to tell you right now that no fault does not mean that fault never matters. No fault just means you don't have to prove fault in order to get a divorce. It doesn't mean that fault never matters. It means that years ago you had to prove fault in order to get a divorce. You had to prove grounds. You had to prove that the adultery was happening in order to even get out of a marriage. Now you don't have to prove those things anymore. You just have to say that the marriage is irretrievably broken or whatever you prove. So, or whatever you say in your particular state, irreconcilable differences or whatever it is. Doesn't mean that fault never matters. It means that there are times that fault sometimes can matter. And by the way, you might want to check out my video with Judge Lynn Toller on beating narcissists in divorce court, where we talk a little bit more about some of this, but it can be useful in some states. In some states, if you spend money on people, paramours, third parties, it can be considered waste and dissipation of marital or community property. So that's why you want to have information about how much money was being spent on this third party. I've had situations where I've seen a guy who spent for many years house for this third party, had a child with this third party, was spending private school on the child, had this third party mistress on the payroll from his company. This went on for like 15 years. Serious amounts of cash being spent on this third party, half of which the wife was entitled to because it was considered marital waste and dissipation of funds. So depending on your state, that could be something that you could potentially get. You know, alimony could be something that could be considered around that. In Florida, adultery is actually listed in the alimony statute. I've never actually seen any judge give an alimony award based on that. But hey, judges are people too, and they do make decisions based on who they like, who they believe, who they think is more credible. And by the way, character is always relevant, and judges don't like liars. So if they think that a person is a cheater and a liar, then that could potentially be relevant. So that's something that you might want to think about when you're getting ready to try to beat them in court. And if you are so ready to beat them, give me a beat them in the comments. So, and it can also matter in a custody claim, by the way. You know, if
they were bringing the kids to this paramour's house and leaving them on the sofa while they went into the bedroom, maybe not so great for the kids, introducing them to the girlfriend, saying things that were inappropriate. Maybe the girlfriend or boyfriend isn't in the best line of work. I mean, I've seen situations where, the new boyfriend was, an ex-con or something like that. It could come into play as well, could matter who they're hanging out with, all these sorts of things. So it could matter in a custody situation as well. So when this narcissist potentially cheats on you, these are all the things that you may want to consider, you may want to think about. So that's why you don't want to necessarily confront them right away. You want to gather your evidence, gather your information, confirm the information, gather as much information as you can against them, because it will be part of your strategy. It will be part of your leverage down the road. And then you want to definitely consider how you want to use it when you go forward with your case, with your negotiations. All right, so let's talk about those 5 signs. So let's talk about narcissists first. Okay, so narcissists in general, they need an endless amount of what? Say it with me. Oh, yes, supply. They want to feed that ego. They are empty inside. There's nothing going on. They have no sense of self. They feel like a shell. So they got to try to pile it all on the external. So what does that mean? They go searching, searching, searching for anything to make them feel good on the outside. And that's anyone that makes them, gives them that adulation. You look so good. You're so beautiful, or you're so handsome. You're so amazing. Anything that feeds that ego, right? So that external validation, it's a black hole. Like it just got to be fed all the time. And remember, they have no empathy. They have no really sense of guilt because they feel entitled. The DSM-5 is what the psychologists and psychiatrists use to measure whether or not somebody's actually a narcissist. And one of the items on that DSM-5, the 7 deadly sins is what I call it, is entitlement. So all of that leads to a foundation as someone who is a potential cheater. And I call the 3 deadly sins of a relationship the 3 A's: abuse, addiction, and adultery. And narcissists lend themselves very nicely to the all 3. The 3 A's are they attack the integrity of a foundation of a relationship. There's no trust involved with that. So what are the signs? What are the signs? Number 1 is hiding their phone, hiding their computers, hiding their iPads, and even hiding bills if they are, the moneyed spouse or somebody who has access to finances. They don't want to give you the logins. If their phone is there, they immediately hide it. If something pops up, they take it with them everywhere they go, even into the bathroom. Never letting it out of their sight, grabbing it as soon as anything is there, credit card bills, grabbing the mail, not letting you see the mail. Because obviously, if they're spending money on this person, Victoria's Secret, I've seen $15,000 Louis Vuitton bags being purchased for people. I've seen people get caught because a Victoria's Secret tag was found in a car, things like that. Jewelry popped up on a credit card statement that wasn't being given to them, things like that. So hiding their phone, hiding their computers, refusing to give logins, something like that can be a telltale sign for sure. Number 2 is boldly talking about how much they hate cheating, how much they hate cheaters, how much they condemn cheaters, how much they would never cheat. I talk a lot more about this, by the way, in my video on Is Derek Jackson a Narcissist? He was a YouTuber that ended up being a cheater, who was always condemning cheaters and then ended up being a cheater. So definitely check out my video on that guy. They might even tell tragic stories on how they were cheated on before, or how their parent cheated on the other parent, and how, or they were victimized, in some way. They really hate cheating. These are the guys that they're like politicians a lot of times, who are like on the morals committee, the ethics committees, and then they end up being the cheaters. The ones. So the ones that boldly talk about how much they hate cheating. You've seen the memes out there where they say, like, a narcissist accusations are actually just their confessions. So yeah, that's sometimes often very true. So that's number two. Fed up with narcissists walking all over you? Sick of everyone believing their lies while you're paying through the nose in attorney's fees? What if you could hold all the cards for a change? Hey, I'm Rebecca Zung. I'm a top 1% trial attorney, a USA Today bestselling author, and I've spent my entire career helping people slay narcissists in negotiations, most recently through my proven slay method. What if your suffering could become your superpower? Imagine turning all that pain into power, not just for you, but for others too. This is your chance to take back control. You can finally win. Become a high conflict negotiation certified coach. Help others while transforming your own life, and do good for the world. This is your chance. Go to RebeccaZung.com/apply, and I'll show you how to turn the tables for good starting today. So number three is they will disappear for hours or sometimes even days on end, and then, without explanation. And then sometimes if you even ask about where they were, they'll accuse you of being, like you're stalking, or you're like overly jealous or overly emotional or insecure, especially because you didn't respond, they didn't respond right away. And by the way, the converse of this oftentimes is like, if they texted you and you didn't respond right away, then they like flood you and they show up right away, and then, "Well, how come you didn't respond right away?" Related to this is like there's a lot of cancellations on you at the last second, that sort of thing. So, you kind of also have to sort of rely on your gut with this, or sort of like your spidey sense. Like, you kind of know, like, this is not seeming right. Okay. So that's number three. Number four is all of a sudden they seem to have like an overly close relationship with someone of either the opposite sex, if they're hetero, or maybe the same sex if they're not. Suddenly these like flirtatious texts late at night, maybe with a coworker or a colleague. They claim like sort of, again, like if you ask them about it, like you're being overly dramatic. They project it onto you like, we're just working together. You're reading too much into it. We're just friends. They make it seem like you are the one who is just being insecure. Nobody else thinks that. We're just, we're working on a project together. We have to be friendly in order to have to work together. It's important for us to have a rapport, something like that. But you're like, I don't know, like that just really seems a bit too chummy. How come you're talking about your favorite songs or like your childhood or something, like you're talking about things that aren't work related. They just always seem to have an explanation for it. If I'm right, by the way, and it's just so gross, give me a liars in the comments right now. Okay. And then the last one is, and this is something that I saw quite a lot back when I was like full on practicing as a divorce attorney, is like they really start to change their appearance a lot all of a sudden. So all of a sudden, they're like working out, they're going to the gym, they are losing weight, they're like pumping iron, they're getting their teeth done. They're, if they're a guy, that the teeth for the guy often, the new boobs, if it's a woman, a lot of times Botox, just suddenly like the glow up starts to happen, the refresh starts to happen, they look better than ever. That is oftentimes a telltale sign that they are, maybe, trying to look good for someone else because, maybe they're getting naked with someone else. Let's dive into what a cheating narcissist looks like. Well, first of all, they're not as controlling as they used to be. They might be a little nicer than they used to be. In fact, they might actually start looking a lot nicer than they used to. That's actually one of the first signs, is that they start changing their appearance. They might start looking a lot nicer. They might start dressing a lot nicer. If you start seeing sudden changes in their behavior, sudden changes in how they look, that could be indicative of a cheating narcissist. And especially if you couple that with sudden changes in lack of empathy and lack of transparency. So, one red flag to look out for as well is a change in how they're acting with like their phone. They're suddenly hiding their phone. They're suddenly more sneaky than they used to be. Maybe they're not coming home as much. Maybe they're suddenly saying, hey, I got to stay out later. I got to work longer. And that's coupled with all of a sudden they're changing how they dress. They're dressing a whole lot nicer. They might have new teeth. They might have new boobs. They might have better hair. Suddenly they got to get a spray tan. And they're either a lot nicer to you than they used to be, or a lot less nice to you than they used to be, or a lot more interested or a lot less interested. They're really bad at hiding their behavior. They've got to like sort of tell what's going on, right? Pay attention to inconsistencies in their stories. They might start saying, oh, I was doing this, but then I was doing that. And suddenly you're starting to see that things aren't adding up. Oh, I was over here. I went over here. I stopped over there. Oh, I thought you said you were going over here after work. And you're going to start to see inconsistencies, and that's going to be indicative that they're hiding something from you. And you're going to start to see inconsistencies. Watch for those red flags. Watch for sudden changes in behavior, sudden changes in appearance, and a lack of transparency. Hand in hand with this is going to be that gaslighting, because now once you start asking questions about what's going on, they're going to be like, that's not what happened. I didn't say that. Distorting your reality. If I were you, I wouldn't start asking questions right away. I would just observe. I know it might be hard for you. It's extremely hard if you think that something might be going on. But if you could just start observing, just start writing things down, either that or just keeping an audio diary or something like that, just because you want to keep a record of what's going on. You want to be able to match up what's actually happening, what they're saying, and the inconsistencies. Because if you can get a record of their summaries of lies, of their summaries of inconsistencies, it might serve you down the road. And especially if they're trying to gaslight you about what's happening, about the events, about your memory, about your perception of what's happening, that will be really, really helpful. Of course, they're going to try to shift blame. They might try to accuse you of the things that they're actually doing. Remember, a lot of times their accusations are actually confessions, right? So let them talk, let them say things, because that might actually help you down the road. If they're consistently deflecting accountability, listen to see what they're saying. Make sure that you are also seeking support from trusted advisors, from trusted friends, from trusted communities. If you need help, we have a really good Facebook community, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. And if you think that you're going to be negotiating with a narcissist, I've got a great download that you can get, which is at Win My Negotiation, which is my free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet, is 15 pages. It'll really, really help you. It's a really, really great place to get started. Winmynegotiation.com. And of course, my book, Slay the Bully, is a really great resource as well. Slay the Bully, How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win. The next thing is your intuition and gut feeling. If you are starting to think that spidey sense of yours is going off, your heart is actually 5 seconds ahead of your brain. And if you're starting to go, you know what? Something is off here. I know that it is. Trust that gut instinct. Pay attention to those red flags that are arising. Your subconscious is picking up on things. Look at those clues and take time to reflect on those for sure. If you're seeing financial irregularities, that's a huge sign of infidelity. Okay. So if they're starting to spend money on themselves, if you're starting to see them take money out of ATMs and all of a sudden big sums of cash are missing, that's a huge red flag. Obviously, unexplained expenses is a huge red flag. Secret bank accounts, clearly a huge red flag. Sudden changes in spending habits, definitely you're going to want to investigate further into that. Financial infidelity is another form of infidelity, by the way, and you want to make sure you take a look at that. I mean, that should not be overlooked either. Another thing that you want to take a look at is a lack of boundaries. If they're suddenly changing how they are acting with you, if all of a sudden they're being more controlling with you, they're looking to see what you're doing more, they're starting to track you more, they're starting to want to know what you're up to more, that could be a sign of infidelity, because they want to know where you are. They want to know where you're at because they want to be able to do what they're doing, and they want to make sure that you're not tracking them. Always sort of an interesting thing, right? You want to be able to see what's happening with them as well. Next thing is this sudden lack of interest in you. If they were always wondering what's going on with you, and now all of a sudden there's a lack of interest in you, a lack of interest in you sexually, all of a sudden nothing's happening at home, that could definitely be a sign that a narcissist is cheating on you as well. If you see that there's something going on, your partner is refusing to talk to you about it, they're shutting you out, they're sneaking around, there's a lack of respect for you or sneakiness, they're hiding things, changing behavior, sudden projection, sudden deflection, sudden lies, all of this could definitely be a sign that there's something going on, there's something amiss. And usually your gut is probably right. Okay. So you're going to want to have support. You're going to want to have people around you who are helping you out. Don't try to do this alone. Make sure that you've got a good community around you. That's why we have the resources that we do in our community. That's why I suggest that you join our free private Facebook group. That's why I do suggest that you get my free Crush My Negotiation prep worksheet. That's why I do suggest that you subscribe here and hit that notification bell. If you like this video, give it a like, give it a share, and get other people so that they can get the help and support that they need as well, because this is not an easy thing to deal with. You feel so betrayed because you feel like you've given them everything. You've poured your heart and soul into this person, and they've not given you anything in return. You know, I always say the worst things for a relationship are the 3 A's: abuse, addiction, and adultery. And this is one of those 3 deadly sins of a relationship. So you feel so betrayed and so alone and so isolated. So don't do this alone. You deserve to be in a relationship where somebody respects you, where somebody loves you for who you are. And this is not it. All right. So let's talk about what it the number one way that a narcissist escapes accountability, obviously they do this whole thing, projection and deflection, lying and denying, and I talk about that all the time. But you know, what's going on with the narcissist is they feel this emptiness, this shame inside of them. They have this shame wound, and so it's this fragile ego is so it's almost like glass, and so this survival is happening, and so you almost it's like this nerve, and if you touch it, it just sets them off, and so they're just going to go nuts on whatever or whoever. And so you have to understand that that's what's really going on. If you understand that and you know that that's what's happening, I think it makes it a little bit easier for you to not take it as personally, because what is really going on has nothing to do with you, right? It has all to do with them. So, and they say it's up to 7% of the population has narcissistic personality disorder. But if you lump in other personality disorders that have no empathy, antisocial personality disorders or personality disorders that have bipolar or something like that, it could be up to 15% of the population. And so, I mean, I think it's even probably higher than that. So, I mean, you're talking about a big chunk of the population, right? So how do narcissists use DARVO to avoid accountability? Well, what they do is they deny. So DARVO, the D stands for deny. So the first thing that happens is you say to them, for example, hey, you did this bad thing, whatever it is. You were, let's say, texting with this woman and you shouldn't have been. Okay. Well, then they will deny that they were doing that. So that's the first thing that they will do. So the next thing that they will do is they will then go on the attack against you, and they will adamantly go on the attack, or they'll say it wasn't, the first thing they'll do is no, I didn't do that, or you're making too much of a big deal about it, or you're crazy, or you're seeing things wrong, or you're too sensitive, all of those things. So the first thing they do is they deny it. Second thing they will do is they will attack you. Sometimes they can become pretty aggressive about it. You're the crazy one. You're the one who is the liar. You're the one who usually is the cheater. You're the one who is the one who stays out late at night. You're the one who is texting with all of your coworkers. You're the one who wears the short skirts. You're the one who is flirting all the time with everybody. You're the one who is, was talking to your high school boyfriend on Facebook, 15 years ago and had the emotional affair. You're the one who has all these problems, and they'll start bringing up things from whenever and making a big, all kinds of noise around that. And they will make so much noise around it. And especially, let's say maybe you're marriage counseling or something like that. So they make so much noise around that let's say you're talking to a marriage counselor, that the marriage counselor now thinks, wait a minute, maybe you are just as bad, or maybe you are worse. than the other person. And, you're left thinking, no, I didn't do any of those things. That has nothing to do with it. Or don't you see that this person is actually abusing me? I didn't talk to the high school boyfriend. I didn't do any of those things. I wasn't, a liar. I didn't wear short skirts. I didn't have lunch with this person. None of those things took place. But the way they go after you in such a way, then it makes the marriage counselor think, I don't know. I think that, maybe there's something to this. And so the abuser then switches roles. So it's deny, attack, so reverse victim. So the abuser then switches roles, arguing basically that they're the real victim here. They're the real victim. And that the other person is actually the offender. The other person's actually the offender. The abuser actually then tries to claim that they are unfairly accused, that the other person's actually making these accusations to cover up their own behavior, because the other person is actually the cheater, that they're trying to blame shift, and then they try to paint themselves in a good light, and then they push blame over onto the accuser, and make the accuser seem like they're the ones who are obviously far worse, and here they are being wrongfully accused and wrongfully victimized, and blame shift onto the accuser, and here they are, the innocent one, and they make all this noise about it. And they might do this outside of counseling. They do this to everybody in the world. And of course, this just inflicts more emotional pain, more mental abuse onto the person who's actually the person experiencing the abuse, right? So if you guys have seen this, give me a totally in the comments below, because this is the number one way that a narcissist escapes accountability. And it's awful. It's absolutely awful the way they do this. If you are dealing with this, you're going to need support. You're going to need help. And so join my free private Facebook group. It's Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. It's a Facebook group that you can join. I also have phrases for disarming narcissists, which will help you get started. You can get those at disarmthenarc.com. They're free phrases for disarming narcissists. Disarmthenarc.com. Just some phrases to get you started. You can use those in texts, emails, when you're communicating with them. So use those to get yourself started for sure. We have a sponsor here on this channel, which is BetterHelp. And you can go to betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung to get started with that. It is a sponsor for us on this channel, which means we receive commissions there, but you do not pay any extra if you use them. So, but by denying their actions, the attacking person confronting them ends up flipping the role of becoming the victim and the offender, and then the narcissist effectively then redirects attention away from their own actions, right? It casts out on the victim's claims to the world. So the rest of the world thinks that, oh, poor little narcissist. Poor little narcissist. So then basically what's happening is that the victim is being re-victimized again. Everybody else then becomes unknowing flying monkeys in the scheme, whether they know it or not. They're part of the whole act of it all. The problem that they have, which is this desperate need for self-preservation, this desperate need to survive. And so they grasp onto whatever they need to do to survive because they're being attacked, because they've been caught. And so they'll just do whatever they need to maintain this self-image. So, you have to kind of put this boundary down around you. That's why I say step 1, don't run. Step 2, make a U-turn. Step 3, break free. These 3 steps, baby steps, but that step 1 is putting that shield down around you, that invisible shield, and just start to look at them as if they're a third party and just say, I am not going to allow this person to penetrate me. And I'm just going to turn this around and just say, I can see that this person is upset, but this is not going to affect me anymore because this is, not my issue. Because you need to no longer see them as a person who is impacting you. You need to start seeing them as almost like a third party where you are reporting the news, where you're just observing them. Because you need to understand that you're not dealing with rational, you're not dealing with reasonable. And by, educating yourself and watching videos like this or reading books or understanding what's happening, that will help you tremendously. Getting self-care, understanding what real boundaries look like, understanding what healthy communication really looks like, getting support groups, definitely documenting what's happening, starting the process of documentation, very, very, very important. That is something you're going to start to need to do because you might need that down the road. That's going to be very, very important for you to do as well. Making sure that you are doing what you need to do for self-care. So those are some things that you can do to start to step 1, don't run, and start to make that shift. Right. So anyway, that's the number 1 way that a narcissist escapes accountability. I know that you guys have seen it. And if you like this video, give it a like, give it a share, because I'm sure that other people could use this information who are dealing with this. For sure. Making that transition between summer and fall is always a crazy thing. And that's why I love having a leather jacket, like my gorgeous one from Quince. And they have timeless and high quality items, which I love. And they don't blow my budget, which I also love. They have cashmere sweaters and washable silk tops. And everything is like 50 to 80% less than other brands, which I also love. They cut out the middleman. They pass the savings on to us, which is also amazing. It's safe and ethical, which I also love. I really love my brown leather jacket from them. It's super stylish and it's high quality. Just love that. So make switching seasons a breeze with Quince's high quality closet essentials. Go to quince.com/negotiate for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/negotiate to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/negotiate. So now let's talk about the narcissist's top 10 favorite threats. They are so silly with their little threats that they throw around. You know why I know that they're silly? Because every time I would have somebody come into my office as an attorney and people would be scared to death and go, oh my God, they threatened this, they threatened that. I'd be like, oh, you know what? That is just a bunch of crap. Just telling you that right now. Threat number one is they're going to divorce you or leave you. A lot of times, first of all, let them go. They're doing you a favor if they do that. But a lot of times they do that. They don't want to do that because their fear is of abandonment. They're like push, pull, push, pull, push, pull. That's what they do. They push you all the way to the brink and then they pull you back because their biggest fear is of abandonment. Do you know that? They don't actually want that, but they constantly are threatening that. All right, so that's number one. Number two is threatening to cheat on you. Isn't that lovely? I'll go get my whatever from somewhere else because they want you to constantly be on edge. I'll go get my sex from somewhere else. I'll go get my love from somewhere else. Everybody else loves me better. Everybody else thinks I'm amazing. Everybody else thinks that I'm full of more beautiful or whatever. I'll get my attention from somewhere else. Even if they don't actually say it, they imply it a lot of times, because they want you to be on edge. They want you to feel like you're always at the brink. I'll get my validation from somewhere else. They want you to feel like you better be on your best game. They want you to feel insecure. So they want you to feel threatened at all times. Feel threatened. Even if they don't actually say it, they want you to feel it. Number three is not nice. Number three is really not nice. Number three is they'll threaten to kill themselves or hurt themselves. And they do this, especially a lot of times, like if you say you're going to leave them or after you leave them, they put the little DMs because they want you to feel guilty, not nice. Especially if they've been extremely emotionally abusive. This is a way to pull you back in, suck you back into that vortex of hell. It's not good. Number four is to threaten to air out your dirty laundry, especially, your vulnerabilities, your things that you've said to them, that you've trusted them with, your heart to other people, that they're going to tell people things that they shouldn't share. And that's what they do. They get you to share things early on in the love bombing part of the relationship, and then they go and tell people things, or they threaten to. The next one is threatening to make your life a living hell. And the discard phase. You can't escape me. I'm going to make your life a living hell. I've heard this before. I've heard you're going to live on the street. You're going to have no money. You're going to be begging on the street. This is all a bunch of crap, especially, if they owe you alimony and things like that. If there's money in the case, they're not going to be able to do that. I had a case one time where the husband would say things like that. And, it's not true. Threatening to stalk you, harm you. By the way, if that's the case, you need to call the police. Get the help and protection that you need. Make sure that you take care of yourself. I do also have phrases for disarming narcissists, which you can get at disarmthenarc.com. 15 key phrases for disarming narcissists. Disarmthenarc.com. And we do have a free private Facebook group, Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung, which you can get access to. And if you need therapy and you don't have access to it, betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung is a place that you can go to get therapy. It's a partner that we have. We receive commissions. It doesn't cost you any extra. We just want you to have access to help and support that's trusted. So betterhelp.com/Rebecca Zung. Number 7 is threatening to never speak to you again. How is that a threat? You go, yeah, okay. How do I make sure this happens for sure? That's what you say. Okay. That's what you should be saying. Number 8 is threatening to turn people against you. Like that smear campaign, which I have a video on how to shut down a narcissist smear campaign, which you should definitely check out. Number 9, threatening to call the police. This is an interesting one because a lot of times they threaten to call the police when they're the ones who need the police called on them. And I've actually seen this before where they were the ones that needed the police called on them, and then they did call the police. So be very careful about that. And number 10, this is the one where, everybody's always scared about this. threatening to take your kids away because they know that's your Achilles heel. They know that's the one thing you definitely don't want. And let me tell you, it is more than likely never going to happen. People who've been the worst don't have their kids taken away from them. And you guys know that that's true. Courts don't want to take kids away from their parents. They're not going to take your kids away from you, more than likely. I mean, you'd have to be pretty darn bad for courts to, completely remove parental rights from a parent. But, they say these things. They say, you're never going to have your kids again. You're going to lose your house. You're not going to have any money. You're going to be out on the street. Or, if it's a business situation, you're going to lose your house. You're going to lose your business, rather. You're going to lose all of these things. Just remember that whatever your rights are under the law, you're going to continue to have your rights under the law. You can't take those things away. And they are fear-based individuals. They don't have true power. When your power is based on fear, scarcity, that's not true power. That's why being an empath, somebody who has authentic power is so much more powerful. What if you could just take a shot and lose all the weight you wanted to? I know for me, a few years ago, I was dealing with thyroid issues, menopause issues, autoimmune issues, all the things, and I gained a bunch of weight and I lost it all, but it took forever. And I wish that something like Robody had been around back then to help me lose the weight. But now you get the benefit of it because Robody is now around to help you lose weight. It's just one shot a week. And combined with a healthy lifestyle, you can lose 15 to 20% of your weight in a year on average and actually keep it off. They've helped more than 200,000 people so far, and they help you even with support, with getting the medication through your insurance and everything that you need so that you can actually lose the weight. That means that it's such a great opportunity for you now. So average weight loss is 15 to 20% in a year with a healthy lifestyle change, and BMI and other eligibility criteria apply. Go to ro.co/Rebecca. Sign up today and you'll pay just $99 a month for your first month and $145 a month after that. And medication costs are separate. That's ro.co/Rebecca. How to tell if your spouse is cheating, which for our listeners is a big deal. People find that their spouse, not just lie about cheating, but they lie about money, they lie about all sorts of things. So, how to tell if your spouse is lying is really, really important for people. And I think it's a hot topic that people will be very, very interested in. So we wanted to talk about those golden nuggets that you give for how to tell if your spouse is lying. The first tip is that your other spouse sounds a little funny. Can you tell us about that?
Well, you want to pay attention to their tone and pitch. So over 85% of us, when we're deceptive, we have a change in our tone and pitch. When our tone goes down, like Britney Spears, when Britney Spears was being interviewed by Matt Lauer 2 weeks before she filed for divorce from her husband at the time, Kevin Federline, Britney Spears' voice went down really soft and said, "No, our marriage is totally fine." As she rubbed her leg all the way down to her ankle in this interview, my marriage is fine. 2 weeks later, she files for divorce from Kevin Federline. So sometimes the tone will go down. Sometimes the tone goes up, Rebecca. I've already answered this question 2 times. This is ridiculous. You're insane. You're so jealous. This is why you have no friends. This is why your friends never call you. So all of a sudden their tone goes up. And often when their tone goes up, it's because you're getting closer and closer to the truth. So they'll channel anger to back you away from finding the truth and getting too close to the truth. And so this becomes this, it's called gaslighting. If you're not familiar with the term, it's like you're the crazy person. And this term gaslighting is based on a movie called Gaslight from decades ago, where this guy finds treasure in his house and he doesn't want his wife to find it. So he starts blowing out the gas lights. And she's like, "I thought that light was just lit." And he's like, "No, that light hasn't worked for months." And to make her crazy. Lance Armstrong did this, quite frankly, when people would call him out on taking steroids. Not only did Lance Armstrong then sue you, he won those lawsuits, by the way. There's one particular interview where Lance Armstrong is doing this press conference, and this guy from, I want to say reporter is from Scotland or Ireland, I think he's from Scotland, asks Lance Armstrong a question. And Lance Armstrong answers the question and the guy goes, "How come you didn't grant us an interview?" And Lance says, "Aren't you the guy from Scotland? Aren't you the guy that's been saying, I'm the cancer in this sport because you think I'm cheating in the sport and taking steroids? You call me a cancer, and I'm here trying to fight to save money, raise money for cancer awareness, make a difference. And you had the audacity to say I'm the cancer in the sport. You're not worth the wood you're sitting on that chair." And so what this is Lance Armstrong is literally raising his tone and pitch and gaslighting that guy, when later we find out what? Lance Armstrong was lying all the time. So when you hear that.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many years later was he sitting on Oprah's sofa?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're asking someone a question, ask me if I've ever taken heroin, guys.
Have you ever taken heroin?
No. I don't have to oversell. Truthful people convey, liars try to convince. So pay attention to that tone change. If all of a sudden there's this either increase in anger or there's this increase in sadness, and their voice goes soft.
Say that again, what you just said. That's a really good.
Yeah. So if there's this increase in anger.
No, truthful people.
Truthful people convey, liars try to convince. So they'll oversell their story to convince you.
That is a good one, because I think I've noticed that as well. As divorce attorneys, I think Rebecca and I have been lied to a couple of times in our lives, right to our faces, as a matter of fact.
By our clients.
By our own clients, exactly. And you do start to pick up some clues on it. Besides that change in pitch, I know another thing that you say is that people slip in verbal cues, which, that sounds like it rings a bell for me, but can you tell our listeners a little bit more about verbal cues?
So there's several here. I know this is going to sound strange, but I know you think I'm making this up, but I know you think I'm lying, but I know you're going to think I'm not telling the truth, but so I say liars, we're watching your big butts. Pay attention to the butts. I was on a show called The Big Idea with this guy who I love, Donnie Deutsch. I don't know if you know Donnie Deutsch. So Donnie Deutsch, he had a show on CNBC called The Big Idea. And I had Donnie sit down, and he told 3 stories. So the first question was, and he randomly picked out of my hand 1, 2, or 3. And whichever number he picked, he had to lie on that story. So he couldn't be prepared for which story would be the lie. So I said, pick 1, 2, or 3, whatever number you pick, that will be your lie. And then I asked him 3 random questions. So the first question was the first place you ever lived away from home. He said sleepaway camp, and the second place was college. The second question was, what drives you mad? What drives you crazy? What drives you mad? And he said, people who are cheap, people who are late, and people who smell bad. And he said, not so much. I mean, people who are cheap, it just drives him, it irritates him. But people who are late, which I'm always late, as Rebecca can tell you, case in point today, it's like always one thing after another. People who are late drive him. That's his biggest pet peeve on planet Earth. So he tells me that. The third question is the nicest thing someone ever said to you. And he said to me, literally right out of the gate, he said, the nicest thing someone ever said to me was, my father told me I remind him of his father. I know that sounds strange, but that doesn't sound strange. Why would you throw a but in there? If anything, that sounds completely normal. So his father said, you remind me of my dad. Why is that strange? I know that sounds strange, but. So before I even get any body language, immediately out of the gate, I'm suspicious of story 3. Because he threw in that big but. The but didn't belong there. He didn't say but there. Hey, the first place I ever lived away from home was sleepaway camp, and then I went to college. I know that sounds strange, but those are the 2 places I've lived. He didn't say it in the second story, the things that drive him nuts. He only said it here, and it totally makes sense. The nicest thing my father ever said is I remind him of his father. The fact that he added the but right there is suspicious to me. There's other verbal indicators, and one of them is character testimony. So character testimony is, just ask my friends. They'll tell you I'm not a cheater. Just ask my friends. They'll tell you I'm not smoking anymore. Just ask my boss. Ask my boss on the trip. If I went out at all without the group on the business trip, just ask my boss. He'll tell you I was with the group the whole entire time. So this is character testimony. Herman Cain, I don't know if you remember Herman Cain. Do you remember him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He ran for president a couple of years back, and I loved Herman Cain because he was so fun to watch for a detecting deception expert, because he gave character testimony in the third person about himself. Kind of like Bob Dole used to say, Bob Dole, Bob Dole would always say, Bob Dole doesn't think this is a good idea. Well, this guy, Herman Cain, running for president, he was charged with like sexual harassment charges came up against him. Not charges, but, people came forward.
Allegations.
Yeah, allegations. Thanks.
There's a lawyer word.
There's a lawyer word. Thank you, lawyers. So he said Herman Cain would never do something like that. And Herman Cain is not the type of man. And I'm like, dude, Herman Cain is giving character testimony for himself. So anytime you're confronting your significant other and they start giving character testimony, your BS barometer should start to go crazy.
That and the butts, right?
That's the butts. And
The
other
big
things, I knew this was going to happen. I knew you were going to ask me this. I knew this was going to happen. Or they'll say, what kind of person do you think I am? Are you calling me a liar? Are you calling me a liar? Why are you asking blah, 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 the same question? This is ridiculous. You're embarrassing yourself. So again, that goes into, these types of statements go into that, trying to make you think that you're crazy, trying to make you gaslight you. So be careful of people. You confront someone and all of a sudden you feel like you're the idiot. You're like, wait a minute, am I insecure? Mammals, out of all mammals, the only mammal on planet Earth to override our gut instincts are human beings. A wolf never walks down the street or through the woods and says, I think I have a bad vibe. That lion over there looks dangerous. I'm overanalyzing it. And then walks by the lion. It's us, human beings. We override our gut instinct, and we can be, especially us women, we can be manipulated pretty easily because here's the deal. When someone is lying to us, your husband or your significant other, here's the deal. If they have any power at all, and this could be they're very handsome, they have a successful job, they pay the bills, they manage the accounts. You may make more money, but they manage all the accounts. If they have any position of power in your relationship and in your marriage, here's what happens when they lie. When they lie to you, they have a focus on the rewards of lying. They have a focus on the rewards. The everyday liar that lies to you, they focus on the consequences. But your significant other, when they lie, if they are in a position of power at all in your relationship, I'm telling you, they're focusing on the rewards. That's number one. Number two, there's 4 things that happens with them. 1, they focus on the rewards. 2, in the moment of lying to you, they get off on it, ladies. So what happens is they have an increase in cognitive thinking, which means that when one lie doesn't work, they can tell another lie really quickly with ease, like this. You're like, wait a minute, you told me you were with Mike. Oh, no, I didn't mean Mike. I meant Jeff. Sorry, it was Mike a couple weeks ago. And they're so fast. You're like, there's no way they could lie because they got it so quickly, because they have that ability to have an increase in cognitive thinking. And why is that? In a moment of a powerful person lying, they have a decrease in cortisol. The everyday liar has an increase in cortisol, right? That hormone that's connecting with stress. They have a decrease in cortisol. They're getting off on it. And the last thing is the powerful liar has an increase in positive emotions. So when you say to your husband, did you see your ex-girlfriend last night at that party? Because a friend of mine was there and she told me that Michelle was there. And he's like, what? I love you. What? I love you. So understand, they have an increase in positive emotions. What are you talking about? Honey, I love you. And they're so happy. Be concerned when you see this. And we're all powerful liars. If you've ever told your kid there's a Santa Claus, and you're we can't go to Grandma and Poppy's house because they don't have a fireplace. And what do? You slap a smile on your face. What? Oh, you're right. You have an increase in cognitive thinking. Oh, I didn't know how to tell you this, but Santa, just like he gives the magic dust to the reindeers to fly, he puts magic dust around Grandma and Poppy's house, and the house lifts up and Santa crawls underneath. Your kid doesn't believe that lie. What do? You slap a smile on your face again. You go, okay, Santa shrinks down to the size of a keyhole with all the presents. Your kid doesn't buy that. What do?
That reminds me of that Dirty John thing. Did you see that Dirty John thing? Because Oh, it was this podcast series that had gotten like 10 million downloads in like the first 6 weeks or something. And
Yeah.
then they ended up making it into a Netflix movie. And we actually
Bravo.
just
Yeah.
interviewed Lily Vasilev, because she has put together some points about how to prevent that from happening to you. But it was this guy who was a master at getting women to pay for everything for him. They would isolate. Well, he ended up being murdered by her daughter. I
Ooh,
would
you
give
just
it
gave
away.
away. Oh
Give
no.
it away for people. But
Spoiler alert.
yeah, spoiler alert. But he was such a master at getting this very successful woman to do whatever he wanted.
Wow.
And she said, like, you know, he said he was a doctor, and then they found his nursing degree, and he came along and said, well, I have a nurse anesthetist doctorate, and that's like a doctor, and that's why I am a doctor. And she believed it. And you know, she said he would have something to say for everything, and it all sounded plausible, which is exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right. And, I mean,
So-
and think about it when, like, if you're telling your kid about Santa or the Easter Bunny or the Tooth Fairy, you focus on the rewards. You have an increase in positive emotions. You have an increase in cognitive thinking, and you don't stress out. As a matter of fact, you're proud of yourself when you finally came up with, okay, I leave the back door open for Santa. Don't tell Grandma Coffee. You know, and your kid buys it, and you're like, you call all your friends, you're like, listen, I came up with 4 answers. I'm like a rock star. So we're all powerful liars. If you can think in your marriage, if you're getting a divorce, if you're separated, and they have a position of power, this is happening right now with a relative of mine that got a divorce attorney, right? I helped pay, so he wouldn't know that she already got a divorce attorney because he monitored all the finances, right? So
Right.
she paid me back later. I wasn't in a hurry for the money. She paid the money, so he wouldn't know. Guess what? Once she serves the papers to file for divorce, he convinces her, now they're using a moderator. Well, now this divorce, supposed divorce, is now going on, I don't know, 6 months, and nothing is happening, and it's chaos, and he's calling all the shots, and there's kids involved. The whole thing is a big mess. And now he convinced her to get rid of the lawyer. So all that money was, I mean, and it's crazy. So she's crying and stressed every single day because he convinced her that the lawyers are not a good option. All they're going to do is raise your money and give you a big bill. Use a mediator. And I'm not knocking mediators. Maybe there's a time and a place for that. But this is a disaster.
Well, that's a normal thing that control freaks do, though. They try to get rid of, you know, even if it's a consulting attorney, which we always say that, you know, having a consulting attorney or a coach is a good idea. But that's what they do. They convince the person that you don't need that person because they want to get anyone else who might have control over that person out of the picture.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, the lawyer themselves, when we went in, it's a female lawyer. And when we went in, I went in and met with the lawyer as well. And I had a list of questions. And the lawyer, this is my friend. My friend's husband wrote a list and said, hey, when we get divorced, here's what I get. Here's what you get. He writes this list.
They always do that.
My friend goes, well, that looks fair. And we bring it into the lawyer. She goes, there's 6 red flags in this list. And my friend's like, what do you mean there's 6 red flags? I go, this is why you get a lawyer. And so we went in. One of the things was he has all this property. And he said, well, there's no way that we can find out how much money this property is all worth. So I'll take all that property and you'll get none of that. Like, you don't need any of that. I'll take the hassle of it all. And she's like, no, you can get property because multiple people own the property. Like, there's a team of families that own it. He's like, there's no way you could figure it out. Of course there's a way you figure it out. That's ridiculous. But my friend was like, well, it makes sense. No, it doesn't.
Oh, they always come in with that spreadsheet of like, I've done this and you're getting the left-hand side and never mind that the right-hand side that I'm keeping tallies a little bit more money. It's
Oh, do they do that, huh? Is that typical?
Oh, yeah. Oh, see it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the other things you mentioned is the person's face flashes contempt. I want you to talk about that, but also I remember that you said something about like when people lie, something happens with their physiological, and that's why their nose starts itching and things like that. You can talk about that a little bit too.
Okay, so see this look? I'm doing contempt while you brought it up. So do this, ladies. Okay. So that's moral superiority. Let me see, Susan. Let's say it. Oh yeah, you're good at it. Oh yeah, Rebecca. Oh no, Rebecca's a monster. So contempt is moral superiority. Now contempt belongs there, ladies. If someone gets an award, right? Your husband comes home and he gets this big award and this big trophy, and he's like the top salesperson of the year. It belongs there because it's moral superiority. It's like he's saying, like, you're damn right, I won the award because I worked my butt off. The problem with contempt is where you're confronting them. Hey, are you on Twitter with a fake Twitter handle? And then writing to like these women, like whores online on Twitter and commenting under your fake handle? And your husband's like, no, what are you talking about? I don't even use Twitter. And then contempt pops up. Contempt is moral superiority. When you see contempt as well, so contempt is usually done by the master manipulator. So someone in the position of power will leak that contempt. So we saw people like Ted Bundy leaked contempt. We saw Scott Peterson, who murdered his wife, pregnant wife Lacey Peterson, and unborn son Connor. Even with interviewing with him, you see contempt, moral superiority. O.J. Simpson. So people in a position of power. If you're married to a husband that maybe doesn't have a lot of power, right? So you might see this one. So they'll do this, or they'll ventilate. So men will go like this with their hand, with their hair.
So like brush it back.
Yeah. So think our brain is inside here. So when there's a spike in stress and anxiety, the higher the stress and anxiety, the higher this self-touch gesture will happen. It's called a guy named Joe Navarro, retired FBI agent, calls them pacifiers. Like a newborn baby uses a pacifier to comfort themselves. A guy named Dr. Paul Ekman calls them manipulators. I call them self-touch gestures. They're all the same. So the higher the self-touch gesture, the more of a spike in stress and anxiety. So you're confronting your significant other, with whether you're married to a man or a woman, and they are doing this. That's an increase in stress and anxiety. The one. So
I just want to explain for our listeners who can't see what you're doing, that you're rubbing your arm or rubbing your hand over the top of your head, just so that they understand that these are the gestures that you're talking about.
Yes, and so the ventilating one is when usually done by men, where they make their hand almost into a comb, and they go from the forehead back to their hair, and they ventilate. So this is literally letting steam off their scalp because there's such stress and anxiety. So us women, when we're stressed, so if you're in a same-sex marriage, and you're confronting her, your wife, your palm will go from your neck to the top of your head. So you'll see women do this. We lift our hair up from the nape of our neck. And the more you see them do this, the higher the stress and anxiety is. So if you see women, and this is even if you're not getting divorced, you're in a negotiation. Rebecca and I just did this negotiation course. So you're in a negotiation, women will tend to go from the nape of the neck up, and we bent our hair, we let our hair out. So we're going from the nape of the neck up. And men will go from the top down. This is a very good point here. So your powerful liars will leak contempt. Your not powerful liars will often do these ventilating moves. Also, if someone is nodding their head, yes, and I didn't give this to Oprah Magazine, but I'm going to give it to you guys, Rebecca and Susan, and your listeners and your viewers, is if someone is shaking their head, yes, we walk out of that negotiation with the moderator or with the attorney or whoever, with your therapist, if you're going to family therapy or couples therapy, and your husband goes, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, okay, that's fine. I'll make sure I tell our, oldest son to respond to your text messages. I'll make sure. And your husband or your significant other's nodding yes. I'm here to let you know, or you're in a negotiation. If someone nods their head yes, we think it's agreement. The problem is if there is a pacifier at the same time, it actually turns from agreement to disagreement. And again, a pacifier is a self-touch gesture. I'm rubbing my arm, I'm rubbing my leg, I'm doing this ventilating with my hair, I'm going up from the nape of my neck. Anytime a piece of our body touches another piece. So someone's saying, yeah, yep, that sounds good, but they're rubbing their forehead or rubbing their throat. Yeah, okay, I'll make sure that happens. Yes, I'll go to couples therapy. I'll go to sex therapy. I'll go to rehab for sex therapy. I won't cheat on you again. And you see them nodding yes, but they're grabbing their throat at the same time or rubbing their leg. Understand? That has taken agreement to disagreement, and no one's told us this. And we walk out and we think we're on the right page. We're fixing our marriage. and then you're blindsided because your husband said yes, yes, yes to the therapist, or yes, yes, yes to the moderator, mediator, whoever, to you, and he didn't do what he said, and you're blindsided. You're like, I don't understand. He said yes in the therapy session. Like, I watched him. No, he has given you the nonverbal indicator of nodding his head yes, but the pacifier at the same time indicates right in front of your eyes, ladies, disagreement. You just missed it because no one ever taught you what to look for.
So
Cool, right?
Yeah, well, now that we know it,
Right.
But it also, I think that I think it's fascinating. You know, you're internationally known as a body language expert, and I have noticed since my practice has moved online. So everybody, when I first started doing mediations online, everyone thought, oh, it's going to lose something in the translation because we're not in the same room. But I've actually found that since you can see each other, and it's almost amplified since you're all on the screen, that the body language still comes through quite strongly. And it's almost enhanced. And you said in that article about body language that the other person sort of seems like they're trying to run and hide. And I've noticed that phenomena even on a screen. So what do you mean by that, or can you describe it for our listeners?
We'll say it again. What was the tip?
The trying to run and hide. So when the body sort of feels like it's, you know, the other person's body is trying to run and hide.
Yeah. So, and this can show up in different ways, but the moral of the story is from this whole interview is you always want to look for someone's baseline. And when their baseline changes, that's where suspicion lies. So if I'm really confident and I'm taking up space, if you were to see me right now, you'd see my left arm is up on my chair that I'm sitting at. I'm taking what's called a broadside display. I'm taking up space. And all of a sudden I get really small. Think of like a Far Side cartoon. I like Far Side back in the day. I'm an 80s kid, 48. So
As we all are.
Yeah.
Yes. So these Far Side cartoons, like the bear would have like a red target on him and he'd get really, really small, or point to the bear next to him so the person with the gun can go shoot that bear. So we implode. We sometimes do turtling. Turtling is where the shoulders kind of pull up and our head pulls down. You'll see this with people who shoplift. So shoplifters, when they go in and they're looking around, before they steal, will often turtle. And turtling, just imagine the turtle's head going back into its shell. The shoulders will rise up, and so you'll see someone sitting here like this. They're trying to become a smaller target and not be seen versus taking up space. So sometimes people will lean away. I call this the belly button rule. The belly button rule is we face our belly button towards people we like, admire, and trust. We also face our belly button and our feet in the direction we want to head. So if you're talking to someone, I talked about this on Dr. Oz one time for a divorce segment, ironically, and you're talking to your significant other and they suddenly adjust in their seat, and if you could see me on video, you'd see I just turned. My belly button is now facing a door and exit. I subconsciously want out of there. So I will literally physically turn my belly button towards the door and exit. I have a friend, Terry Moore, in New York City, and she always says to her husband, his name's Nikolai, hey, Nikolai, my belly button is facing the door. You know what that means? Let's go, buddy. My belly button's out of here. Let's wrap it up.
Get behind the belly.
Yes. So watch for that change in the baseline. Watch for when people shrink. Or again, remember, some liars convince instead of convey. So some liars will get opposite and they'll take up space and try to be really confident and start doing steepling, which is like prayer hands. We see Oprah do this steepling move. It's literally like the steeple on a church. They'll try to overcompensate that they have nothing to hide.
It's a power move. I learned that.
Yeah.
That and the chin grab.
Yes. When we grab our chin, we're about to win.
Is that good? Okay, because I do that a lot. Is that a good thing to do?
Yeah,
or
It's a good thing.
Oh, good.
Talk about this narcissist and how it kind of opened doors that maybe you hadn't really seen right in front of you.
Yes. I had really reached, this pinnacle of success and thought, I mean, to the point that other lawyers had called the guy that I was merging my practice with and asked if I had cancer. Like why would she walk away from this size of a practice? Like I was literally, at the top of my game. And so I got into this business endeavor with this woman who was, you know, it's one thing to advocate on behalf of others, but when you are in, for me, in a partnership with someone who's supposed to be your equal, and it was a female, and this person turned out to be what I didn't have the language for at the time, a covert passive aggressive narcissist. Everybody thought she was so nice and she was very charming, and you know, I didn't speak up when I saw things happening. I felt I was transported back to when I had been bullied as a kid. And I had lived this whole life already, very successful. I thought I had processed all of these emotions from when I had been bullied as a kid for being Asian. You know, here I'd had this whole big life back in Naples, Florida, where I was on top of my game. I had a lot of friends. I had, you know, I was married. I made my daughter, you know, like my life was good, you know. And I had, you know, mind you, I gotten married when I was 19. I had the first time. I had 3 kids by the time I was 22. Because I had dropped out of college, I went back to law school at night and had met my second husband, who I'm still married to now, when I was still in my 20s. I had gone back to University of Miami and gone to night school and went to law school 100% on student loans. And so I had literally gotten out of the trenches, you know, and built this law practice, you know. So I had come up from the ranks. And so, you know, I really felt like I was on top of my game. And when this happened, I really was very stymied at this point. Confused. I was thinking about it in the middle of the night, ruminating about it, obsessing about it, brushing my teeth in the morning, obsessing about it, talking to my husband, talking to my friends, you know, walking around my house. You know, I just was so feeling this pit in my stomach constantly about this situation, but not sure what was going on in my life at that time. And it really threw me for a loop. Really threw me for a loop.
So what did you do? Because there was a turn of events with this. How did this situation lead you into what you're doing today and what you're now known for?
Yeah. So I ended up going on vacation, and it was only in July of 2019, so we're not talking about all that long ago. I remember going on vacation with my husband and my daughter, and we were in Hawaii. And we went up to the top of a mountain in Mount Haleakala, which I don't know if you've ever done that, but you get up in the morning, you go to sunrise, and it's so beautiful. It's literally like heaven on earth. And my daughter, it's like 2:30 in the morning. It's like you go from like 90 degrees to like 30 degrees, but it's beautiful. I mean, literally stunning. And my daughter, who was 17 at the time, she says, "Mom, oh my gosh, it's beautiful. It's heaven on earth. And I'm up there with the people I love." And my daughter says this, and I said, "Yeah, it is. It's gorgeous. It's heaven on earth." And all I could think about was this narcissistic person. And I thought, no. You do not get to be here. You do not get to be here in heaven on earth. And that was that. The person who walked up that mountain was not the same person who walked down. I literally made a decision in that moment that I was done. And I realized in that moment I was being a victim. And I was every moment that I gave that person, I was allowing myself to be a victim. And I made a decision in that moment. I was getting out of that partnership. And as soon as I got back from vacation, I told her I was done. And I was going to make it, amicable, but of course she couldn't do that. But that's a whole other thing. But I decided I was going to finish my book, Negotiate Like You Matter, which I sent it out for endorsements. And I didn't even know Robert Shapiro, but he immediately emails me back and says, call me. And I was like, oh, okay. So I called him and he says, he offers to write the foreword for the book. So like magic starts to happen. And during that time, I was teaching myself the YouTube algorithms, and I started following Russell Brunson, and I was learning about funnels and things like that. And so I started to do some YouTube videos. I thought I would do negotiation in general. And I started making videos on like clothing color psychology and how to get a job and things like that. I was getting like 30 views on YouTube, like nothing much. And at the same time, somebody told me about narcissism, and this person had been a covert passive-aggressive narcissist. And I thought, what is that? I never even heard that term before. And so I'm voraciously learning everything I can about narcissism, not for anything other than for myself. But then I was still practicing law part-time, so I was still flying back to Florida a week, a month from LA. So I started applying what I was learning about narcissism to my cases. And lo and behold, it's like I discovered penicillin. All of a sudden, I start seeing movement in these people. And I thought, oh my God, I'm totally onto something. So in January of 2020, I do one video on how to negotiate with a narcissist. I had 300 subscribers on my YouTube channel at that point, and I got 700 views on that video. I thought, oh, okay, I'm totally onto something here. So I decided to create a course called Slay Your Negotiation with a Narcissist, and I came up with this acronym SLAY: Strategy, Leverage, Anticipate, and You. I decide, let me see if I can get the intellectual property on the word slay, which I was able to do. So I own that word. And I decide I'm going to go live with this course on March 11th, which I had no idea what's going to happen in the world at this point.
Yes.
And I do. I go live with it on March 11th. And I came up with this webinar, 3 Must-Have Secrets to Communicating with a Narcissist, which, by the way, is still my evergreen webinar.
Love.
And by January of 2021, I had over 100,000 subscribers on my channel. I know that for sure. And I had made $1.1 million on that course.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So
Yeah.
let's talk about this, because one thing I love about your story, Rebecca, is like you were learning all of these pieces of the puzzle, but we weren't quite sure exactly how they were all going to fit together, right? You're learning YouTube algorithms, you're learning funnels, you're learning about digital courses, you're learning about all these things. And isn't it interesting to think too that you could have gone with an entirely different lens, hit a totally different market or no market at all, and how you kind of uncovered like, wait, this is getting traction. This is proof people are interested. This is where I can go. Walk me through what it's been like since you published that first video on YouTube, saw that traction. Did you go hard? Did you go deep? Like, how did you kind of let the people speak of what they're most curious about and help that guide your next steps?
Well, it wasn't so easy, frankly, because at first when I saw that hit, I thought, oh, I don't know if I want to be the narcissism queen. frankly. Yeah, it wasn't so easy for me because when I saw that first one hit, I thought, okay, I definitely need to make more content around that. But then I thought, I don't know if I really want to be the narcissism queen, like it wasn't like I really wanted to be negotiation. Like that was sort of where I wanted to go. But then I thought, well, let me just make 8 videos on this. And I had talked to my brother, my brother was one of the founding executives of a company called DoubleClick, which is a digital course. A digital company, which was originally purchased by Google a long time ago. And so he was like, just ride the wave, I mean, he just thought ride the wave. And at the time he was in the middle of a messy divorce, and and I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll just do this for a little while and just see how it goes, so. And it was really, honestly, when I started, the other piece of it, frankly, was I wasn't really ready to talk about my experience with having been in that relationship, because I thought, how did I end up there?
Yeah.
It was kind of shameful for me. And, yeah, because I thought I'm supposed to be strong. I was supposed to be this badass attorney. How did I end up there? And then I thought, I need to get over this blame and shame, and I needed to really let people know that they don't attach themselves to you because you have so little value. They attach themselves to you because you have so much. And they're really good at what they do. They're good at mirroring you. They're good at love bombing you. And and it's not just a romantic relationship. It's business relationships. It's all kinds of relationships. So I wanted to let people know that it could be anybody, and the more authentic and vulnerable I got, the more traction I got, and I couldn't be anybody but myself, because, I try to be the same, here and here and here, I want to believe that I'm the same if we're having coffee or if we're having this conversation, on a podcast, right? And so I wanted people to know that it can happen to anybody. And the more I did that, the more views I started to get and the more people I started to help.
What did it feel like going from that like very powerful position as a lawyer to this more like vulnerable, authentic person? You're no longer necessarily representing other people and their stories. You're telling your story. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, that is so hard. I know so many entrepreneurs who just want to hide behind their work, right? Where it's like, look, but don't look too close. But I do think that you touched on something, that authenticity and that vulnerability is what connects human to human. And the fact that you are this strong, powerful woman and this still happened to you is a sign that it, again, can happen to anyone, and it likely is. And so what did it feel like kind of putting on that new identity of like, okay, I can be me and I can tell my story and it can be received? How was that experience?
It was hard at first. It was really hard. I mean, honestly, I but the more emails and messages that I got, the easier that it got, because I truly get, I mean, now it's thousands, but they come in every single day, literally every day. I have a full team now of VAs that answer my emails and texts and DMs, that it's literally full time of people whose lives we touch. And my head of sales, actually, she made the point that the people whose lives that were changing, it's not just them, it's generational. And when she said that, I literally got chills down to my core.